Welcome everybody to Learning Revolution Conference. So glad you're joining us, and we're really happy to be a part of this conference and love the work that Learning Revolution is doing. So thank you, Learning Revolution, for hosting this of one of your many, many wonderful online conferences. My name is Kelly Mendoza, and I'm from Common Sense Media. I manage the professional development program there, and I'll tell you a little bit more about us to begin with, if you're not familiar with us. But today we'll be talking about digital citizenship, a whole community approach. And we'll talk about, I will share with you some free resources from Common Sense Media. We'll talk about what you need to do to have a whole community approach in your school to have students think critically and behave safely and participate responsibly as digital citizens. So let's see. We have a few people in the room. Welcome. Hopefully you're hearing me okay and so forth. If you want to use a hashtag, use the hashtag learning14. I would love to be able to be talented enough to use the hashtag as well as I'm presenting, but I will check back later. So I will also, you can use the chat box on the left if you want to ask questions or talk with each other. Thank you to our sponsors. Blackboard Collaborate is awesome. The Learning Revolution Project, awesome. And thanks for hosting the conference. So I'm going to give you whiteboard permission to tell us where you are from. And what you can do is now you have should see a menu on the left hand of your, I think it's on the left of your screen, and just use the star function, the second one down, to indicate where you're at. So I'm not quite sure, where could you be? Or you could chat it in the chat box. So is that South Dakota? I'm trying to look. I am in San Francisco, Ohio. Great. I'm in California. Welcome. All right, it's good to kind of see where everybody's at. Thank you for joining again. Okay, let me move ahead here. So we're talking about digital citizenship, and Common Sense Media has done a lot of work in that area over the past several years. So I'll be really showcasing with you a lot of our different resources and what we've found it takes to do a whole community approach to this topic in your school. So I'll give you a little bit about Common Sense Media, an overview of our education programs, and three factors for a whole community approach to digital citizenship. Just a little bit about us. Common Sense Media, we are a nonprofit organization. We're based in San Francisco, but we have offices and people on the ground around the country. But we're dedicated to improving the lives of kids and families by providing trustworthy information, an independent voice, and education that they need to thrive in a world of media and technology. And one of the things we do is rate. So this was actually the first thing we did, is ratings for parents, rating the reviews of movies, books, music, websites, games, apps. You name it, we rate it for parents to be able to make wise decisions about their kids' media. And there's a lot of great media out there. I think parents really want more information on how to choose high quality stuff for their kids. You can check that out, or if you work with parents, you can recommend that to them. We do advocacy work on behalf of children and media issues. And for example, this year we're focused on student privacy and how to protect student privacy, students' private information that's collected by schools and oftentimes shared with third parties. So protecting their privacy is a focus this year. And we also do research on kids and media issues. And so if you're on our site, I encourage you to multitask. By the way, I'll enter our URL in the chat box. And you can kind of browse around our website. I'm going to be showing you a lot of screenshots today just because there's specific parts of our site I want to be able to show you clearly. But most all of our education resources are free or have a free version just that I'll be talking about today. And then the education program. So let me oops, I guess the slide I thought was there has been moved. But so we provide schools, K-12 schools, programs to help students harness the power of technology for learning and for life. And what I'll be focused on today is digital citizenship, which is always a hard word to say. But we also have a program on one-to-one essentials. So if you are thinking about or you're in a one-to-one program, it's a planning tool that really helps schools build a one-to-one culture around one-to-one learning. And we have a tool called Graphite that helps you discover, use, and share quality games, apps, and websites for learning. So you can check that out as part of your tech integration. So let's dive into the topic of digital citizenship. We know that students in today's technology landscape increasingly have access to digital media, whether it's at school or at home. And we want technology we want kids to really access the promise of technology for learning and communicating and sharing, but we know that kids are not always aware of the consequences of their actions in the digital world. And, you know, they're growing and they're developing and they're learning these skills. So we have to help guide them. And in particular, if the school is using or integrating technology, it's increasingly important. So we know, here are some of the issues, and I've just pulled together some key facts. We know that kids spend a lot of time with digital media. This is from the Kaiser Family Foundation. It's a 2010 stat, so it might be a little bit more actually nowadays. But kids spend an average of 7.5 hours a day with media outside of school. So it's pretty staggering, the amount of screen time that kids have in their lives. And we want that screen time to be safe and beneficial and productive for them. And so that's part of it. It's just the sheer amount of time that kids are spending with media. We know that privacy is another issue. So kids and privacy and what they're sharing online and what information they're sharing, we need to help kids think critically and understand how to protect their privacy and also the ramifications of sharing and collaborating. I mean, it's great, but there are also risks in what they share and how they do it. And then also just privacy settings, you know. So this statistic, I think it was Nielsen, was about 41% of kids aged 8 through 17 leave their Facebook privacy settings on default, which, if you know about privacy settings, is the lowest level of privacy. It's, you know, it's like open to anybody. And so a lot of kids know how to customize their privacy settings and keep their information private, but it's complicated and it takes work. So we need to make sure that they do know, number one, and that we can help them through that aspect of it. But then there's also the aspect of digital footprint. So we know increasingly that kids are building a digital footprint of a trail of all the information that they leave about themselves online and as they participate in the digital world. And we know that increasingly college admissions officers are looking for kids' digital footprint. They're looking to see what they find about applicants, or, you know, job organizations and companies are looking at job applicants, or scholarships are looking up the kids that submit applications. And so increasingly this is happening. This is a study of Kaplan admissions officers. And so we need to help kids build positive digital footprints that they can be proud of, that they can share. And then lastly, we know that kids are interacting with each other in a digital world, and this interaction can lead to cyberbullying, bullying online, hate speech, drama, all these kinds of things. So we know that this is a combination of meta-analysis of different research by Pew Internet and American Life, that 1 in 3 10-year-olds have reported being cyberbullied. That's a lot. And the problem is when and you've all heard cases, when it gets to an extreme point where a kid feels, you know, so ashamed, so embarrassed, so hopeless that they do things that are unthinkable. And that's not where we want kids to be. We want this to be a positive a positive digital world that they can feel safe and collaborate and be supported by others. So that's the need for digital citizenship. So for us, digital citizen means that students know how to harness the power of technology safely, respectfully, and responsibly. And these are all of the skills that our curriculum that I will introduce to you address. Avoiding online risk, thinking before they self-reveal, protecting their online privacy, creating a positive digital footprint, communicating with others respectfully, building positive community online. And then also, sometimes people don't think of these digital literacy skills, but they're part of the umbrella underneath digital citizenship. So being able to search effectively online and evaluate the credibility of websites and determine whether something is trustworthy or not, respecting copyright and avoiding plagiarism, and making sure that you're using things in appropriate ways and providing credit where credit is due. Those are also skills under digital citizenship. So just keep that in mind. So, what can you do to help kids be safe, smart, and responsible participants in our digital world? Well, you can think of the whole community approach, because I think oftentimes we think of like the lone teacher who's going to teach digital citizenship. That's kind of how it's thought of at some schools. Or we think, some parents think, well, it's the school's responsibility. No, I mean, it's also the parent's responsibility, right? So you can think of it as a three-legged stool in which, in order to have a solid foundation for digital citizenship, you have to engage students, you have to educate students, engage parents, and educate parents as well, and then have strong school leadership around the issue. And I'm going to talk about those three with a heavier focus on the engaging students or educating students piece. So if you're not familiar, Common Sense Media does offer a digital literacy and citizenship curriculum. It's K-12. It's a comprehensive curriculum with 45-minute lessons. We take a balanced approach to digital citizenship. We don't use the fear-based approach or fear-mongering, or we find that it wasn't effective with kids or teachers, for that matter. So we celebrate the potential of media, but really talk about the risks in a real, authentic way. There are student videos that kids love, and they feature real students talking about their real issues, not actors. The curriculum has assessments at the lesson level and at the unit level, and best of all, it's free thanks to our philanthropic funders, the MacArthur Foundation, Hewlett, and Sherwood Foundation, that funded the development and the creation of the curriculum. A lot of people don't know that our curriculum is research-based. We worked with Howard Gardner and the Good Play Project at Harvard. They did research. Let me send you a link. Elf is asking for a link to the curriculum, so let me send that to you. Okay, so I sent you a link to educators, and what you'll do is go under digital citizenship. When you get to that link, go under digital citizenship and you'll see the resources there, because I don't have that one memorized in my head right now. Okay, good. We worked with Harvard. They did research. The Good Play Project did research on youth and digital ethics, and we worked with them to really come up with the framework for the curriculum, the topics that needed to be covered, and they helped us pilot the lessons and craft a lot of the lessons around it. And so that was our research partner in really getting at, Good Play did research around the ethical fault lines, is what they called them, the fault lines that kids were falling into as they participate with new media. And so we worked with them around a lot of those topics to cover them in the curriculum. And it's also standards aligned. So if you're in a Common Core state, know that you can meet ELA Common Core standards by teaching digital citizenship. You can weave it into English language arts and social studies and technology classes and library media studies. And we even have math and science teachers weaving in aspects of digital citizenship into their curriculum. If you use ISTE's standards for students, we're aligned to ISTE, and if you know about those standards, they have a specific standard specifically for digital citizenship. And of course, you can imagine that the lessons oftentimes meet a lot of that particular standard, but more. I mean, ISTE standards are great for communication and collaboration and creation skills with digital media. And then also AASL, if you work with librarians or you're a librarian media specialist. So this is a list of the curriculum categories that we cover. There are 8 categories. And on the right, you'll see a list of how the units are broken down. So each grade band has, and each grade level has a unit, and each of those units has 5 lessons. So for instance, grades K to 2, 3 to 5, and 6 to 8 have 15 lessons total for the grade band, while grade 9 has 20 lessons total because it's 5 lessons per unit. So we have been working with several schools throughout the past few years and found that schools that really dedicate themselves to digital citizenship find that they can indeed complete 5 lessons throughout the year to teach digital citizenship. So hopefully it's a sweet spot. Maureen, the curriculum is available. Should one follow the lessons in order? Okay, good question. You could. They're designed to spiral out from foundational topics to more higher level topics. So they're sort of designed that way, but it's flexible enough for you to cherry pick lessons that are relevant to your school or district and put together your own scope and sequence. We have seen districts do it all the time. You know, there are certain topics that they want to cover, or, you know, they wanted to weave it into different pieces of their curriculum. So to answer your question, Maureen, you can cherry pick lessons and it will still work. We have people do it all the time. Okay, one thing to notice, if you have iPads, and if you do, you can put a happy face or put it in the chat box. I'd like to know, because I'm kind of showcasing our iPad resources. So we have the curriculum available online as printable PDFs, okay, Chromebooks. So you would use the online version, Maureen. And so these are downloadable, printable PDFs with opportunities to tech it up, to tech up the lesson, with opportunities to use, you know, digital tools. But actually, a lot of people don't realize you can teach this with our printable curriculum in a no-tech classroom, a classroom with no technology at all. I mean, what you're doing is you're teaching students to grapple with ethical decision-making skills. And so, although it's helpful to have technology, because you kind of want to partner the two hand in hand, it's possible to have no tech and still teach this topic. But if you have iPads, we recently launched the curriculum as iBook textbooks. And this is basically putting all of our lessons into an iBook format. They were designed specifically for iBooks, and transforming the lesson activities into what on iBooks they call them widgets, which are all activities that are all encompassed within the iBook, and students have their own book. So, and students, the great thing is about the iBooks is students can submit their work paperlessly to you, just right through the iBook. Hello from New Zealand, thanks for joining us. So there's a link there, but if you go to, again, the curriculum link that I shared earlier, you can get to the iBooks that way as well. I just want to walk you through a lesson, and I'm going to show you the online version just to sort of walk you through different components. So what you'll see this is a screenshot of our website, and if you are on commonsense.org/educators, you'll see the digital citizenship icon. So you want to click there, and you can go into any of the lessons in the scope and sequence. Now, I'm looking at a lesson called Follow the Digital Trail, which is a kindergarten through 2nd grade lesson, and it teaches kids about digital footprint from a very early age. So you can really teach about these topics very early on, and kids, the thing you're doing is you're giving them the language, you're getting them prepared. A lot of teachers say, well, my kids aren't, you know, why do they need to know about digital footprint? It's you're building this foundation. Cut paste the link in the chat. Okay. Let me see, Jenny, hold on. Okay. If you go here and click on Digital Citizenship, you can start exploring the lessons. But anyway, what I was getting at is you can teach these topics from a very young age. You're building these skills, you know, from very young age. And a lot of schools are now implementing things like iPads and as young as kindergarten. So these skills need to be taught early on. So we have the title of the lesson, the essential question, the leading question for the, in this case, it's what information is appropriate in a digital footprint. There's an overview of the lesson, and there's the learning objectives down here. But you can also download everything by clicking this button. And in order to download the materials, you have to be registered as an educator, which you can do. There's a link in the top right-hand side of our website where you register for free, and you can download everything for free. This is, again, just another screenshot. Online, you'll see what you have to do, what materials you'll need, what sort of preparation you'll need to do. The teaching plans these ones will expand out when you click on them. So you see each of the teaching steps. You'll see the Common Core alignment and ISTE standards alignment down here. And then if there's any video associated with the lesson, you'll see that on the right. So some of the lessons have videos for students to watch, and some of the lessons have videos of the lesson being taught, so you can see what it looks like in a classroom. Now this one does have one of those videos. So, and not all of our lessons have that, but it's just a great way to see, oh, this is what it looks like, and here are some strategies that the teacher used. And then one more thing to point out, all of our lessons have resources for families, and this is where you can start making the homeschool connection. This is a tip sheet that teachers can distribute to parents. They can put on their school wiki. They can do whatever with it. We just ask for a link back to our website, but it's Creative Commons, so you can share it, and that's a way to start making the connection with home. This is a screenshot of the actual PDF. So it's the same information online, but you'll see the same information, the essential question, the overview, learning objectives, it's just in a PDF. And I'm just going to show you some screenshots. In this case, in this lesson, students are looking at Mizzle the mouse, and they're examining these different pieces of information that Mizzle left online. So Mizzle told us that he lives in a mouse hole, and that his pet's name is Frank the Flea, and that here's a photo of his favorite food, right? So students are playing in, they're role-playing detectives. But they also look at Electra, the elephant's digital footprint. And they're exploring that Electra, the elephant, left her full name online. And she even shared her password. And she even shared her birth date and exactly where she lives. So you can imagine students going through this and figuring out, Electra left a lot more information, specific information about herself than Mizzle did, than Mizzle the mouse did, right? And that you can share information online about yourself, but it's certain kind of information. So Mizzle said that he lived in a mouse hole, but Electra left her specific address. So the point we're trying to get across to students is it's okay to say that, it vaguely to give and to share online as long as you don't give specific personal information and private information about yourself. Here's the lesson handout that students use to track that information. They are answering questions about, whose name do you know, whose birth date do you know, and then they work in groups to figure out who has the bigger digital footprint. So that's just a sample of student handout and the lesson download. What I didn't show you is each of the lessons has a lesson level assessment. It's a 3-question quiz, and you can use that as well. You could either have students fill it out, or you can just use it as a formative assessment or a summative assessment in the end. So if you have iPads, we do have the curriculum available as iBooks, downloadable. Oh, here's the assessment, sorry. So this is a unit level assessment. If you have students go through each unit, The unit level assessment is cool because students can go on our site and they can answer several questions, and then what you'll get, they can email you their score and a printed report of their results. It's really cool and convenient. I mentioned the family tip sheets that come with each lesson that are specific to grade level and developmental stage. And I mentioned the lesson in action videos before. You can check those out. Okay, so let's get to the iBooks. So iBooks is laid out a little bit differently. If you have iPads, this is definitely what you should be using. It's free. It's a free download. We worked with Apple to develop these books, and we've had a lot of downloads since they launched. But if you're a teacher, you can use the teacher edition. That will include not only the lesson plans, but there's a lot more materials in the iBooks than we have on our traditional PDF download curriculum. And then your students will have their own book that they download and fill out all of the activities and watch the videos and complete the lessons that way. So for the teacher edition, the great thing is with the iBook version is you have the lessons in the palm of your hand. You see everything that the students are seeing in terms of their activities and the assessments. And what I love about the iBook version is all of the professional development is embedded. So we have additional wraparound content that are specific to these books about the topics and research and background and teaching tips and the videos of the lessons in action, and a lot of materials to help you feel comfortable with the topics and with teaching the lesson. So that's the teacher version. The student version, the student workbook is what we call them with the iBooks, has engaging lesson activities. That is basically our pen and paper activities, but if you've used iBooks before and you've used the interactive books, everything is done within the book. So it's like a closed, it's a closed sort of system for them. They're in the iBook. And the great thing is once you download an iBook, it's downloaded and you don't need to use Wi-Fi to use the book. So a lot of times we have issues with Wi-Fi and, the infrastructure is not great and we have students all on one tool and it's like sucking the bandwidth. With iBooks, you don't worry about that because the book is downloaded and it's not drawing on bandwidth at all. Okay, so students also have the videos are embedded for them to view on their own. And they have like popover, vocabulary popovers, which means they tap on a word and the vocabulary comes out. It's really, really cool. Now, they can email work to the teacher, so there's not an LMS or anything in the iBooks, but they can set up the book with the teacher's email in the very beginning, and from each lesson, they can complete all the work and then just, boom, email that to the teacher. Now that's when they're going to have to be connected to a Wi-Fi network for that email to go through, but you can get the students' work just all paperlessly, which is really cool. So here's a link to the scope and sequence, and I'm hoping that you've already explored this, but I'll share it again just in case. Hopefully I didn't mistype that. But what you'll see is the 8 topics that I mentioned before. And then you can also jump by grade band with this drop-down menu. So I encourage you that you can multitask as I'm talking. You can check it out later. But everything is laid out for you, clear and easy to use, hopefully. Now, another tool, if you teach upper elementary, grades 3 to 5, that you might be interested in is Digital Passport. Digital Passport is, and let me put that URL here, Digital Passport, is a complementary piece to our larger curriculum that is a web-based interactive for 3rd through 5th graders. And it's basically a blended learning experience where there's games and videos and students get badged, but there's also a bunch of wraparound activities if you want to have more of a blended learning approach where students are going on Digital Passport and then coming back together and working in groups and doing activities that way. So there's similar topics are covered, but it's not repeating the curriculum. It's actually very different kind of content, but it's still those digital citizenship skills. And we have it available as an app. So if you use Edmodo, Digital Passport is an app in Edmodo, and also on in the App Store and on Google Play. And all of those three things down here that I'm pointing you to are paid-for versions. Just want to make clear that the online version is free. So totally up to you and kind of the experience that you want your students to have. We've also won a couple awards for Digital Passport. It's been really, really great. And students get badged as they go through these 5 modules, and what they get at the end is a completed certificate, which you can, have them take home or post on the wall. So there's some badging in there as well. Let me go back here. I'm kind of done talking about the curriculum resources at this point. Again, we have free versions of everything. We've tried to make it really clear and easy for you to use. So I encourage you to check that out and see if it's a good fit for your class or your school. So another important piece of digital citizenship, and I'm tired of saying that word today, I'm slurring over it, is engaging parents. And I showed you a little bit of how to do that with the curriculum. We have tip sheets that you can pass out, but let's talk about that more broadly. So we did a study with our curriculum, and this was with middle school. And one of the key findings of that study was that students who talked to parents about the curriculum reported better outcomes overall in terms of changes in their knowledge and attitudes and behavior. So this is an important piece to make that homeschool connection in these topics. So there are ways, handing out the parent tip sheet, but there are also other ways that you can engage parents through our Educate Families program. So if you go back to that main educators link that I sent, commonsense.org/educators, you will see an icon that says Engage Parents in the menu. Oh, I'm sorry, it says Educate Families. And what you'll see there is a program that provides everything that you need to do any sort of family engagement. There are tip sheets that you can hand out. There are communication templates. There are videos. One of our top downloads is called a Family Media Agreement. And this is a great way for you to kind of encourage parents to continue the conversation with their kids at home. And it's basically an agreement on, it's almost like an acceptable or responsible use policy for parents in a way. I mean, parents go over these steps that we lay out, and they talk through, what they expect in terms of their media use at home. So if you have a one-to-one program, a lot of parents, well, not a lot, I shouldn't say that, but some parents think that, oh, well, it's a school device, so, they kind of don't parent over the device. And if that device is a take-home device and it's at home, the parents totally should oversee it. They need to parent, it's in the home. So this is a great way for them to have that conversation with kids. Jenny in New Zealand, it's worldwide, and we actually, you should be able to go and register your school or register as an educator. We do work with people in Australia and New Zealand, particularly Robin Trebode. I don't know if you know her, but it's totally free and available to you. So the point is to really make it easy for you to educate families and encourage parent engagement around these issues. I mean, they need a lot of help navigating, parenting in a digital age. And I also wanted to point out that a lot of these resources are available in Spanish if you work with those populations. Casper, good to hear. I've been using it in Australia and Fiji. Awesome. Okay, cool. I'll leave my contact information at the end. Would love to hear more about what you're doing. So finally, and let me go back a little bit. So as part of this toolkit, if you're exploring it, you'll also see sort of slide decks and information on how to do a parent night. I find that if you do a night for parents, a parent education night where they come to the school, you're talking about internet safety and that it's helpful to really engage students if you can in that night. And by that, I mean, some parent nights have a student panel where students talk about a lot of the issues and, how they feel about these things to really help parents understand their perspective. Sometimes students share their work, like maybe you have students create a video around cyberbullying or a public service campaign commercial where they're educating others in the school, and you can share those things, and parents love to see student media creations. So think about the ways that you can make your parent night more engaging than just a talking head, and that you can really have actionable steps for them to take home and do with their kids. Another tip of advice about parent engagement is just reach parents wherever they are. Reach parents wherever they are. And I really encourage you to use multiple channels to educate parents. Some parents, like you'll see them in the morning. Can you hand something out to them in the morning when they drop off their kids? Great ideas. Yeah, please share your ideas in the chat. Put it on your school blog. We have a widget in this program. I'm going to put a star here where you can embed Common Sense Media's blog for parents into your wiki or into your school site, and it will literally feed you our latest articles from that blog. So easy, because the parent coordinator doesn't have to take time to find the best articles to put up there. It's all done for you. So I mentioned, the parent night. There's put on the school blog. There's there's just think about the multiple ways that you can reach parents besides, the one route. That's the key I've found, is you just have to use all of those avenues. And all parents are at different stages and different places, so that's always helpful to try to reach them where they're at. Jenny, yes, the blog widget is, I don't know if it's an RSS feed, but it will feed the blog as I think it appears as a widget onto your site. So I think that's what it looks like, but it's basically feeding our blog articles for parents into the site. And we also have one for educators. So if you want to feed your teachers the latest articles in ed tech, we have a widget for our education blog too. Okay, so finally, I wanted to address the school leadership issue. That is really the third leg of the sort of stable stool of digital citizenship in your school. And that means that school leadership really has to work to communicate the importance of digital citizenship and not have it be like a standalone one-shot deal and not have it be, So Jenny is saying everybody has to be on board. It's true. For that approach, the whole community approach to work, you have to get people on board, and you can't just allot it to, the technology teacher. And that way it's seen as important and across, all of the faculty and the staff. So in terms of the curriculum piece, if we can go back to that, there are a variety of ways that you can implement our curriculum. We've seen models where it's integrated into the school's curriculum, like English, language arts, social studies, technology, library. I mean, there's a variety, character education, health and wellness. There's a variety of areas. But I've found, just from our observation, we worked with hundreds of schools. The standalone approach, as you can imagine, is much more difficult, where it's the lone teacher, trying to teach across grade levels who doesn't have regular interaction with the students. That's a harder model to follow. So it could be taught as a team across your school, where you have several teachers splitting up the lessons and teaching them and using the resources, and having your team approach. So that's one thing to consider. We also, think of it in terms of in partnership with your technology instruction, like your one-to-one rollout. Some people do it in the beginning of the year when they're handing out devices and having students sign agreements and acceptable use policies, that sort of thing. And in the U.S. at least, if you receive E-rate funding or E-rate support, you may know that you have to teach kids these skills. in order to meet the requirements for getting that E-rate funding. You have to have a policy around it. You have to teach students, and this is in conjunction with CIPA, the Children's Internet Protection Act compliance, and you will have to show documentation that you've done this. So I hate to bring up the mandates point of it, but you know, it is, if you receive E-rate, it is mandated. So I just wanted to point you to a couple more resources. Now, you're all here receiving professional development, which is great. We do have additional resources online for professional development, and here's the URL here. This will list, you know, our online training available that we have, in-person training options, our conference calendar of what conferences and webinars we'll have coming up, and then this just pulls up those upcoming webinars, and then communities you can join. So if you're on Edmodo, we have an awesome digital citizenship community on Edmodo. You can join that. If you're a member of EdWeb, I love EdWeb. They have just amazing communities. It's not just digital citizenship, but there's many, many communities you can join on EdWeb, which is primarily housed around webinars and discussions, and then also Verizon's ThinkFinity. So you can check that out. I do want to point out, we do have a free curriculum training. It's an hour-long video that is broken down by grade level. That it's for teachers that are new to the curriculum, that need an overview of the topics and the curriculum, and you know, kind of like what I did today, the lessons and how to use them. So that's free. It's again an hour-long video. You get a certificate of completion at the end for watching that, and you can submit that to your school for professional development hours, or you know, if you're a pre-service teacher, you could use it in your portfolio, teaching portfolio, that kind of thing. So you know, I'm talking about the school leadership level, and I want to talk about awareness campaigns, because we've been noticing this is a trend, and it's actually can be quite effective for your school to have a digital citizenship day or a week-long event. And what this would involve is things like, you know, a kickoff assembly where you create awareness and get people excited and get teachers excited to teach a lesson or do something around this topic. You can have a pledge. So we have these pledge posters on our site where students, you know, pledge, and they write in, you know, their own things that they want to add. They sign this, they put it in the classroom, they all kind of make a commitment to it. Teachers may teach a lesson. So we've worked with San Francisco Unified School District, for instance, to have one day where all students receive one lesson in from our curriculum. And or maybe it's throughout the week, right? Maybe if you can't do it on the same day, do it throughout the week. And then there's parent events around that as well. The benefits of doing this kind of campaign is not, as you know, from leadership, it shows your school's commitment to this topic and that you value it and you have expectations around behavior, and you know, you're building this culture in your school, and so it shows that commitment. I mentioned the expectations. You know, it's clearly laid out that this is something that we're striving for and that we're educating students and families about. And the last point is about press. So by that I'm talking about news media press. If you are in a school or a district that may be even high profile, this is particularly important that you have positive press around your school's integration of technology. And you may think of an example where you've seen negative press because something terrible or bad has happened in the school, whether it's cyberbullying or, you know, privacy or something has happened. This will help, you know, promote positive press around your school and what you're trying to do. So let me show you a case study of LAUSD. This stands for, especially if you're not in the States, Los Angeles Unified School District. It's the largest school district in the U.S. We, now they are rolling out, gosh, I can't even remember the number. It's an insane amount of iPads, 370,000. So imagine how do you do this, you know? I mean, part of this is really, really a strong digital citizenship component. You have to have it. So we worked with them earlier this year to, actually last month, to do a digital citizenship week. It was a week-long event around LAUSD involving many, many schools and really getting everybody on board with this concept. And they're weaving this into their one-to-one rollout. They're weaving this into as an important part of their program. So I'm showing you a screenshot of their site, and we worked with them to develop this and their program. But if you go into that site, and I'm sorry, let me see if I can get the URL. Oh, I can't copy and paste it, but maybe it's something I can send you later. There's ways that schools can kick off digital citizenship. There's the pledge, there's the school activity kit, there's videos. I mean, they've really laid it out for schools and for families and laid out their vision and their commitment. And this is just a quote that they've laid out clearly. LAUSD is supporting educators by providing a comprehensive toolkit, including grade-appropriate lesson plans about digital citizenship, activities that can be implemented school-wide, and materials to engage parents, guardians, and communities. LAUSD is providing targeted resources, yada, yada. So you get the point. The point is that they are expressing their commitment. They did news media events around this. You know, they did a newsmaker video, which is something that can be shared with the media. Different schools did their own videos. It was just really, really a great way to get everybody on board and create awareness and expectations in the district around this topic. So, you know, benefits, I mean, I hopefully don't have to convince you too much that, you know, at a district level, you're really trying to create a positive school climate around technology and around use, and really helping kids and teachers getting the most out of using media and technology and positive behavior around it. For teachers, you know, especially if they're in a one-to-one classroom, it helps with one-to-one learning to have these, to really do preventative education around internet safety and just digital citizenship. But it also helps them meet ELA Common Core standards, 21st century skills. If you're using the iBooks, it can be paperless. I mean, there's all sorts of benefits for teachers. Then for students, you know, we really want students to be safe, responsible, and respectful, and build their 21st century skills to be a collaborative, you know, participant in our digital world. And then finally, for families, we really want to help families build their confidence in managing media and technology and build that home-school connection. So we've had a lot of positive response over the years. Here's some quotes, and I'm not going to read them all, but by teachers and by education leaders about what we're doing with digital citizenship, and had really positive response on the curriculum. So it's been great, and we're always looking to improve and make things better and easier for schools to do this. This just gives you a sense of our reach. We have people, you know, you had asked earlier from New Zealand, Jenny, about is this worldwide, and we do have people using this worldwide, which is great. I wish we had more funding to do things like, you know, translation and so forth, but since we're a nonprofit, we are dependent on philanthropic funding and grant funding to do things. But 155,000 educators registered around the world, which is great. And then we're working with top districts in the U.S. And then I mentioned our work in other countries and beyond. If you are interested, if you're doing work in digital citizenship and you're doing the work, or you want to do more, you're really excited about it, consider our certification program. So this is a program where, let me share this link with you. The page was certification, where you can get recognized for your efforts. You join a community of other certified educators, and you basically, you know, follow a series of steps that involves, you know, teaching our lessons and engaging parents and doing things in your school to create awareness and do education around the topic and get recognized for all your hard work around it. It's a great program. Before we go, I just wanted to show you the variety of education programs that we offer. I mentioned that this digital passport and the curriculum that I mentioned earlier. Graphite is something you might want to check out. It's graphite.org, although it's created by Common Sense Media. Let me type the link here. And that is a free service that helps you discover, use, and share apps, websites, and games. So think of it as ratings and reviews of learning content by teachers, expert teachers. So check that out. And I actually did a session on it just before this session that is hopefully recorded and you can watch later if you're interested. I mentioned the family education program and beyond. So, oh, thank you for sharing your course, Jenny. That's great. So you can check out any of those resources at commonsense.org/educators. And then finally, if you want to contact me, feel free to contact me directly. Here's my email, and my Twitter hashtag is Kelly Mendoza. Common Sense Twitter hashtag is, or not hashtag, I'm sorry, handle is commonsense.edu, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. So we do have a few minutes left. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I'll wait a little bit. If you have a question, you can, I think it would be easiest if you type it into the chat box. And I'll see if anybody has any comments or questions. Okay, so it looks like I'm not seeing any comments or questions at this point. So I thank you all for listening today and for joining this session at the Learning Revolution Conference. It's been really great having you here, and this session is being recorded, so if you want to share it with a colleague, by all means, you can do that later. Materials for higher ed. So unfortunately, no, but with that said, we don't have materials specific for higher education, but we do have a lot of colleges of education using these materials to prep and educate their pre-service teachers. So if you work in higher ed and you're working with pre-service teachers or great people going through the program, we do have a lot of schools using these things to, teachers that are going to be going in the classroom, they're going to have to deal with a lot of these issues, so they could use it that way. So Jenny, thanks. Great. Thank you so much, Jenny, for joining, and everybody for joining. So I think on that note, I'm going to end the session today. I encourage you all to check out the rest of Learning Revolution sessions, depending on what time it is in your time zone. That makes me kind of curious. If you're in New Zealand, I'm not sure what time it is. But thank you so much for joining, and enjoy the rest of your day or evening.